My wife admitted she's attracted to my married best friend, so I let her embarrass herself and face the consequences of her actions. So a little context before I get into what happened. The three of us went to high school together, but my best friend's wife met him at work. My wife, Jackie, 28 female, and I, 28 male, got married 3 years ago after 2 years of being together. My best friend, Nick, 28 male, and I have been friends ever since we were in kindergarten. We've been friends for a really long time and are still going strong. He married Tara, 30 female, a year ago after being in a relationship for about 3 years. Jackie wasn't friends with me and Nick back in high school, but we were acquaintances. Jackie and I only met at the high school reunion we had a couple of years after graduation, and we became friends there. Nick had to skip that one because he was sick. She asked me out on a couple of dates and we realized we had a lot more in common than we'd thought. That's how we got into a relationship, and we were relatively happy. Our married life was great too, and we'd even gone out on several double dates with Nick and Tara. Things were going so well until about a week ago when my wife and I were having a night in, and we polished off an entire bottle of wine because we'd had a really busy week and wanted to celebrate. Just for fun, we decided to play that game where we named 5 celebrities who we could hook up with without our partner getting mad at us. I named 5 celebrities, but she was able to name only 4. I was teasing her about it and told her that she needed to name 5 or else I'd win this one. Of course, there was no winning or losing in this game. I was just messing with her. But she thought about it for a while, and then blurted out that she'd definitely love to get with Nick sometime or the other if she knew that. I wouldn't get mad. I was shocked and didn't know what to say at the time. I tried to laugh it off since she was chuckling as well, but in spite of being drunk as hell, I couldn't find the humor in what she'd said and couldn't just laugh it off. So I asked her if she was being serious, and informed her that she could only name celebrities because it's unlikely that we'll ever even get to meet them. If she names real people, that just makes it weird. She told me that she was serious, and even confessed that she'd had a crush on Nick even when we were in high school. She didn't even think that she should have stopped there, and went on to say that she used to think of me as his less attractive sidekick back then. All I could do was stare at her open mouthed because whatever she was telling me was just so disrespectful and mean. I guess she'd just forgotten that I was her husband now and continued to talk about how she'd love to have a day out with a man like Nick and just how lucky Tara is. I'd had enough that night, so I just left the room without a word and went to the bedroom to sleep. I was really upset, but I was also very drunk, so I fell asleep quickly hoping that I'd forget all of this in the morning, but I didn't forget. The next morning, I decided to confront Jackie about what she'd said the previous night at breakfast. She seemed pretty unaffected by last night even though I was nursing a terrible hangover. When I asked her if she'd actually meant what she said about Nick, she told me that it was all true and didn't even seem sorry about it. She wasn't even embarrassed to admit it and just continued to have her cereal. I was getting pissed off because this woman was supposed to be my wife, yet she had no shame in admitting that she'd always been more attracted to my best friend. I decided to ask her if she still found Nick attractive, and without missing a beat, she told me that she did. That was the last straw for me and I lashed out at her over it. But instead of apologizing, she doubled down on what she was saying and told me that I needed to just accept it and move on. She did love me more than him and believed that I was her soulmate, but she still thought that Nick was objectively more attractive than me. If it came down to physical attraction, she'd pick him over me any day, and she expected me not to be offended at that. Because what's more normal than your wife telling you that if it came down to it, she'd rather sleep with your best friend than you? We got into a really ugly fight and she left for work after telling me that I was being petty and selfish. She said that she wasn't going to sugarcoat the truth for me, and that if she didn't find me as attractive as Nick, she wasn't going to say it just to boost my ego and make me feel better about myself. She even tried to gaslight me by saying that if I hadn't wanted an honest answer the other night, then I shouldn't have brought up that stupid game at all. I should have just let it be when she wasn't able to name 5 people instead of teasing her about it as if I was the problem here. I didn't go to work that day and just kept breaking into tears throughout the day. I wanted to talk to someone about this, but ironically, I couldn't talk to the only 2 people I usually share everything with, my wife and my best friend. So I chose not to say anything and tried to pretend that I was fine when Jackie came back home. We didn't speak after the fight. And then for the next 2 days, because she was convinced that she hadn't done anything wrong and was just being honest, on the 3rd day, I finally broke down and ended up telling Nick everything. He'd noticed that my behavior was off and that I sounded perturbed. So for 2 days, he kept asking me if I was alright and was very concerned about me in general. I just couldn't hold it together anymore and told him the truth. He was furious on my behalf and was about to call Jackie up and give her a piece of his mind, but I stopped him. I just didn't know what to do at all, and I definitely didn't want him to confront her just yet because I wasn't ready. But Nick pushed me to realize that what Jackie had said to me was really messed up, and that I needed to teach her a lesson and then leave this marriage because it was very clear that she didn't respect me at all. He was right, of course, but I didn't know what to do to teach her a lesson. It was only when Nick mentioned how he wished Jackie would have said something like this while Tara was around, and it would have been a sight to see because she'd beat up a woman before who tried to catcall Nick, that I realized I could just do exactly that. I asked him if he'd be okay with me arranging a double date with them in the next couple of days, and having Jackie bring this up in front of Tara. He agreed readily, and we had a good laugh thinking about what would happen to Jackie if she said crap like this on the date. By then, the hurt had dissipated and had been replaced by anger. So I decided to go ahead with this plan of mine and even apologize to Jackie for overreacting even though I didn't mean a word of it. I just wanted her to say yes to the double date. I made it up to her with her favorite dinner, and she actually had the audacity to tell me that she was glad I'd finally come to my senses and she agreed to the date. The plan that Nick and I had come up with was reckless enough, and I also added fuel to the fire by lying to my wife a day before the date by telling her that I'd learned from Nick that even he'd had a crush on her for the longest time and would love to go out with her someday. So she should probably bring that up on the date. She seemed taken aback and asked if Tara was okay with it, and I lied and said that she didn't care because it was just a date and she didn't mind. She seemed very pleased with that and was smiling from ear to ear when I told her, which lessened my guilt by a lot to be honest. Yesterday, we finally left for the date in the evening, and Nick and I had picked one of the finest restaurants in the city. We were all dressed up and it was supposed to be a great day for all of us. Nick and I were excited because finally, Jackie was going to get whacked and we believed that she desperately needed that. After some small talk and a couple of glasses of wine, I finally brought up the game that we'd been playing the other day as a way to steer the conversation where we wanted it to go. Once again, I named 5 celebrities and asked Jackie to go next. She was confident enough to name Nick this time without any prompting because of what had led her to believe the day before about Nick feeling the same way, about her and Tara not giving a damn. Unfortunately, neither of those things were true, and as soon as she named Nick, he pretended to be shocked and so did I. We threw her under the bus there, and when I took a look at Tara, she was already fuming. She's a pretty buff woman, so it was definitely intimidating. But Jackie was unfazed and continued to smile at Nick. Tara addressed it first and told her that she needed to apologize to everyone at the table, and then we would end this double date. So Jackie had a chance to read the room and do the right thing, but as usual, she did the exact opposite. She still chose to believe my lies despite the proof of it being untrue right in front of her face in the form of an angry Tara and a shocked Nick. Yet, she chose to answer back saying that she wasn't going to apologize because she knew that the feelings were mutual. Even decided to take it a notch higher and said that now that everything was out in the open, she and Nick didn't need to push down their feelings for each other anymore and pretend like there was no tension there because now Tara and I couldn't do anything. Unfortunately, Tara most definitely could do a lot of things. Out of anger, she immediately grabbed Jackie by the collar from across the table and pulled her up to a standing position. Before we even had time to react, there was a loud thump, after which I only remember Jackie being knocked down and the restaurant authorities escorting all of us out. Nobody called the cops because the restaurant didn't want any bad press, which was lucky for us. There was a lot of blood afterward, and from what I know, Jackie had a broken nose. But she still had the audacity to continue the brawl outside the restaurant. She tried to taunt Nick and me by calling us cowards because by then, she'd put it all together and realized that we'd come up with this plan only to humiliate her. She only left when Tara warned her that one more word from her would land her in the hospital for a good few days. After that, I didn't go home and instead went to a hotel nearby. They dropped me off, and while in the car, we explained everything to Tara. We thought she'd be a little miffed that we hadn't involved her in this plan of ours, but she told us that she was glad we hadn't informed her beforehand. Otherwise, she might not have punched Jackie since she doesn't like getting into fights unless it's something serious. But she told us that Jackie deserved this and she wasn't sorry about it at all. She dropped me off and they went home after dinner since we hadn't been able to eat at the restaurant. After about 2 hours just before I was about to crash, I received a text from Jackie saying that I was an awful person for doing what I did. She complained that she had to go to the ER all on her own since her nose was broken and she'd had to get it plastered. She said that my decision to screw with her just to get back at her for merely saying that she found Nick attractive was disgusting, and that she wanted a divorce as soon as possible. According to her, what I did was unacceptable, and she thought it was psychotic and juvenile of me to concoct a plan to get her beaten up by a woman twice as big as her. I felt a little bad that she had to deal with the ER on her own because I know blood in hospitals freak her out. I didn't respond to her text last night because I was too tired to even think about anything else, so I just went to sleep without much delay. I was still riding the high of watching Jackie get punched and didn't think that I'd done anything wrong, but now that I've woken up and sobered up, I realized that what I did was definitely kind of messed up. She was right. It was juvenile of me and Nick to sit and plot against her just to watch her make a total fool of herself, and then get punched right in the face. I think we went a little overboard and did something very high schoolish. I'm not happy about it anymore, but I'm also not sure if she was in the right here either. I mean, she did say a lot of things that were just not cool. Not only did she admit that she finds Nick hot right in front of his wife and her own husband, but she actively tried to get with him while we were around. I know she only said those things because I'd let her believe that Nick liked her back. But even then it was crazy because that meant that these had been her true feelings towards him all along. I still can't get over the fact that she called me his less attractive sidekick. That's obviously got to sting coming from your own wife. I know the marriage is over, but I don't know if I owe her an apology for doing what I did. I do think what I did was petty and kind of overkill, but the things she said last night made it seem like she deserved it. So am I the asshole for lying to my wife and letting her hit on my best friend just to get her beaten up by his wife? Update 1. Okay. I went through the comments on my original post, and I'll admit it. I messed up big time. Most of you guys said that everyone sucks here, and I know it's true. What my wife said was disgusting, but what Nick and I did was super juvenile as well. We didn't even take Tara's feelings into consideration, and kind of used her and her anger just to humiliate and hurt Jackie. We were actually counting on her losing her temper even though we knew that she had to work hard to bring it under control. We made a total mockery out of it, which was very, very insensitive of us. I guess I was just acting out of spite and didn't give anything much thought, and neither did Nick. I'm embarrassed now that I'm thinking about what we did with a clear mind, and so is Nick. So we really do think that we owe Jackie an apology because she did get physically hurt, and like many of you said, there might be a chance that she might press charges or something. It's been 3 days and it hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean it won't. So just to be on the safe side, Nick and I are going to apologize to her, but I'm still leaving her. It's going to be hard, but I know I have to do this. It's the right thing to do. We're also going to apologize to Tara, obviously, because we know that we took undue advantage of her weakness, and I think I painted a really bad image of her here too. She's not a bad woman, honestly. She's just had a rough time with her anger, but she's still going to therapy to deal with it, and it's improved a lot since when she was a teen delinquent. She'd never hurt a fly unless it posed a threat to her, and she tries to avoid getting violent as much as she can. She even gave Jackie a chance to apologize and only got mad when she didn't, and continued to creep her husband out. To be fair, I think that anyone would have lost it by then. She even gave Jackie a chance to apologize and only got mad when she didn't, and continued to creep her husband out. To be fair, I think that anyone would have lost it by then. Also, the incident that Nick was telling me about where she'd beaten up a woman for catcalling him was from several years ago when they just started dating, and she just gave her a black eye. Like I said, she wouldn't hurt anyone who doesn't totally deserve it. I'm not trying to defend violence in general, but sometimes you have to do something about certain situations where words just don't seem to cut it. Update 2. Hi, everyone. So Nick and I tried to apologize to Jackie today, but it was not well received. I went back home with him to collect my things and bring some fresh clothes with me to the hotel. She let me in, but she looked really unhappy about it and didn't say a word to either of us the entire time that we were there. Her nose was still in bandages and I did feel guilty about it because she was visibly in a lot of pain. We packed in silence and I decided to apologize right before we were about to leave. I told her that I wanted to apologize for being so harsh and tricking her, and I thought she'd apologize to me and Nick as well for saying all that crap that she did. But instead of that, she told me to leave and that she wasn't interested in our apologies now that the damage was already done. She told us to be grateful that she hadn't pressed charges against Tara and said that both of us should count ourselves lucky that she'd even expressed any interest in either of us at all because both of us were nothing compared to the men she'd been with before us. That was a little weird, but we were too shocked to say anything. She continued to rant about how she'd given us both a chance, but we'd both blown it. So now our apologies meant nothing to her because no matter what we said, she wasn't going to take me back, and she definitely wasn't going out with Nick anymore. I tried to tell her that we weren't here to ask for a second shot to be with her, and that she was delusional for even thinking that's what the apology was for, but she slammed the door shut right in our faces. I guess it was our fault for believing that she'd have turned into a decent human being all of a sudden. That clearly didn't happen, and I'm not surprised either. Even when we were in a relationship and throughout our marriage, she talked freely about her hot male coworkers or cute men she'd meet, but I never thought much of it since it wasn't like she was acting on it. So no harm, no foul. I had the misconception that she told me all about her interactions with other men because that's how secure I was, but it turns out it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with her own ego. And the fact that she thought she was God's gift to earth and wanted me to be grateful that she was married to me in spite of the million other choices that she apparently thinks she has, but at least Nick and I did our part and apologized for screwing up. Her rejection of our apology is not something we can help. Our conversation with Tara went a lot better. In fact, she insisted that we didn't need to apologize at all because she would gladly whack any other disrespectful woman the same way because that's the only way they learn. She even said that if Jackie's parents couldn't teach her to respect her husband and other men, then she'd be more than happy to take that job up and teach her in her own way, which I thought was kinda cool of her. Nevertheless, we did apologize to her for taking advantage of her and inadvertently trying to rile her up just for our entertainment, and she accepted it. That was it. No further drama. So that was all, and now I'm just looking for a lawyer to deal with the impending divorce. I don't know how I'm feeling about any of this, but I know I'll get through it as long as I have my friends and family with me. It's just going to be a pain to meet her during the divorce proceedings, but I'll be fine, I guess. Update 3. Hi. So I filed for divorce a couple of days ago, and Jackie was served yesterday. This morning, I received a text from her telling me that I was going to regret this, but since I'd already filed for divorce, she wasn't going to stop me. She told me to come back and collect everything else that belonged to me, like all the knickknacks, photo albums, and other miscellaneous things that I owned, but didn't bring with me because I hadn't found an apartment yet and I was still living in the hotel. She told me to get it done by the end of this week, or she'd either give it away to charity or just dump it in the trash. So I've had a word with Nick and I'll be moving in with him temporarily. He's been kind enough to let me keep all my belongings in his storeroom until I'm able to find accommodation for myself. I'm so grateful for him, I swear. I know Jackie has been talking crap about me to all our common friends, but she doesn't realize that she's the one who comes off as a total clown who hit on her husband's best friend, and then got beaten up by his wife. Most people have reached out to me to tell me I'm doing the right thing and wish me luck because of her story. So she's doing me a favor without even knowing it. Her disrespect and pettiness don't even bother me anymore because I know she's just a total loser and I'm inherently better than her.